he was an oncologist, Mark Rittenmeyer, and he was going in Kentucky to get his computer worked on at Geek Squad, his desktop, to get his computer worked on at the Geek Squad. And they went in there, and as they were working on it, they found a picture that looked very strange to them. It was a picture of a young girl, and it was a picture that they found in an unallocated space on his desktop. They were trying to clean it up, but what they actually saw in there was what they deemed as child erotica. One thing that I wanted to put out today and to let people know, and this was a huge story that broke over the weekend, the fact that there was a child porn case that involved the FBI and Geek Squad that was thrown out by the judge. And why was it thrown out? Because of a lawsuit by a George Soros funded organization called the Electronic Frontiers Foundation, excuse me. And so now we've got George Soros essentially pushing forward to protect suspects of child porn. And let me put this into context for people. Here's what happened. So there was this guy, he was an oncologist, Mark Rittenmeyer, and he was going in Kentucky to get his computer worked on at Geek Squad, his desktop, to get his computer worked on at the Geek Squad. And they went in there, and as they were working on it, they found a picture that looked very strange to them. It was a picture of a young girl, and it was a picture that they found in an unallocated space on his desktop. They were trying to clean it up, but what they actually saw in there was what they deemed as child erotica. They turned it over to the FBI. The FBI then went and got a search warrant, went into this guy's house, went in through all of his items, went in through all of his electronic devices. They found hundreds of photos of child porn, hundreds of them, all throughout his house. They had the evidence. They had him dead to rights. Up until this George Soros Foundation, the EFF, George Soros funded foundation, came in and actually sued the Department of Justice over the search warrant. And in their lawsuit, they essentially stated that the search warrant was inadmissible and that all of the evidence should be inadmissible as well because of two reasons. Because the FBI gave reward money to Geek Squad for turning over the evidence that they found. The FBI gave reward money to the Geek Squad. Well, here's what the Soros Foundation said. They said that if they had been paid by the FBI, then that kind of made them deputy FBI agents. Okay, this is as crazy as it gets, and that as deputized federal agents, they needed a search warrant to search his computer in the first place, even after he had turned it over to them. So this is the EFF, this is the lawsuit. They're concerning the FBI's relationship with Best Buy and other computer repair facilities. It's like, no, excuse me, the FBI is actually, and doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that totally make sense to you that if you want to catch these people, you catch them when they're not going to be looking? So you go to places like Geek Squad, you go to now that obviously that relationship is burned because now the pedophile rings are going to know not to go to Geek Squad because they work with the FBI. But doesn't that make sense? You go to someone, and I've worked in intelligence, I've done intelligence operations, I've done investigations. This is the type of thing you do. You want to put a positive front, a neutral front in front, and this is the way that you catch these sickos and these creeps. But the Soros Foundation, no, they're interested in protecting these child porn predators, these perverts. They want to protect them, and the judge actually eventually threw it out because he stated there wasn't a search warrant in the fact that there was payment, even though they had consent to go into his desktop. He brought it over to them. And then he also stated that the picture that they found wasn't essentially erotic enough, the judge stated, to constitute child porn. And so that the entire search warrant for the man's house, the oncologist's house, was thrown out, as well as any evidence that was found in that search, meaning the hundreds of pictures of child porn. Now, in legal terms, legal circles, this is known as fruit of the poison tree. This is known as getting evidence off of a search warrant that you can't admit. So no warrant would have been needed originally because he consented to their search of his desktop. However, the search warrant that they later got for his house, the judge said didn't constitute a child porn filing. And so this guy, for the last 6 years, has been fighting this case, and now, thanks to the intervention of the George Soros Foundation, right, this Electronic Frontiers Foundation, it's been thrown out, and he walks away a free man. This is what happens to justice in our society. This is what happens when we actually catch someone like this, one of these sickos, and try to put them behind bars. George Soros and his cronies in these, saying they're just protecting the digital rights of people. Well, excuse me, I don't think that child pornography is a digital right. And I'm not exactly sure why George Soros foundations are being listened to by the halls of our government. But that is the fight that we're in. And this is the kind of story that you're not going to hear covered on CNN. You're not going to hear covered on so many of these mainstream media sites. And that is why you come here. You come here for the stories about what's really going on in our country and getting into the actual issues of what we need to do to fix our nation.
Wow.